So we'll start from the Mishnah. There were more casualties of falling star overnight.
Yeah. There was a report that Yerushalayim was hit, but I didn't see any details.
I didn't see that either.
It was Bat Yam and Rehovot where the missiles got through.
And they're slowly taking out all the missile launchers. They took out 6 missile launchers last night as well. But what Iran does is they only shoot the missiles by night, because by night their mobile launchers are harder to spot. But Israel is finding them and taking them out. I think 6 of them were destroyed last night.
They've got hundreds of them. That's the problem.
They said that it would have been much worse if they wouldn't have been so successful taking a lot of them out the first night.
Yeah.
But success is really only if it's 0.
Right.
And also a Yid was killed in Gaza last night as well, yesterday over Shavuos.
What's that? I didn't hear that report.
Yeah. A soldier was killed in Gaza. We don't realize that. Everyone's so distracted by what's going on in Iran. We forget that there's korbanos every day, and they're literally risking their lives there. There's a lot more troops in Gaza than there are in Iran now. So we need Yeshua. Okay, let's have a look at the Mishnah. Kol hanishbain shabbatayra. Anytime there's a chiv shu deraisa in the Torah, such as moed miktas, such as erechod, it's always the defender who's swearing, and by swearing he's going to retain his own money. He will not have to pay. Nishbain v'loy mishalom. However, there are some exceptions. Ve'elu nishbain v'noitlim. There are cases where you're swearing to get money, and those would be the Rabbanan, those would be the Kanas. Some of these Shavuos, the whole existence of a Shavuot, all need to make the Shavuos with the Rabbanan, and some of these Shavuos are Midaraisa, and they were originally placed on the Nitva, but the Rabbanan, for whatever reason, transferred the Shavuot to the Teveah. So let's go through the list. Haschir is an employee, and the Mishnah and the Gemara will elaborate on exactly what the scenario is. The Enigzal, someone who had been stolen from, Vanechbal, and someone that has been beaten, and therefore there are damages to be paid. So that's a clear case of a moed b'miktas who would have normally been mechayiv the loiva the shvua. The loiva, for some reason, cannot make a shvua because he's chashud, and therefore the shvua gets transferred midrabanan to the malva. In the case of chenveni giving credit, again, all of these cases will be elaborated upon, so we get the details. Okay, haschir. We'll start with the schir, an employee. Ketzad. The employee goes to the employer and says, "Please pay me." And the employer says, "I paid you." Yet the employee said, "I was not paid." So the halach is hu nishba v'noita. The employee swears to collect money. So interesting to point out, there's no moed b'mitzvahs here. So this shvua is a complete takana from the Chachamim, and we allow the Toiveya to swear, and of course the Gemara will explain why. But Rabbi Yehuda Omer, the Rabbanan do not fabricate the shvua. Rather, in the case we just discussed, there would be no shvua at all, and you would say Hamoitzin mechaverei olavarei. Where is there a shvua by the loiva? That's in a case of achetehei. Rabbi Yehuda Omer achetehei sham mikzas heidah. There had to be a shvua deraisa triggered through moed mikzas. Then we transfer the shvua to the teveh. Ketzad amulay tenli schari chamishim dinar sheyesh lebiyatva. The employee says, "You owe me 50 dinar." For who Aimer, and the respondent, the employer says, his kabalta diners off. You were partially paid. So therefore, there's a Shavuos mitzvahs, and we say that the employee pays and he collects his full amount. Nigzal, Keta. What was the case of Nigzal? Someone went in to someone else's rishos, and Adam saw that he went in to take a mashkin in a scenario where he was not allowed to take a mashkin. So if a malva seizes a mashkin and he's not allowed to, that's called gzela. Who Omar Kela Natal? The loiva claims you came into my house. I have proof that you came into my house with two Adam, and you also seized Kalim. Who Omer? The malva says loy natalti. I might have been in your house, but I didn't steal any Kalim. So the halachas who nishba v'noitel, the nigzal would swear and be able to get paid back from the malva for the Kalim that he claims he took. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda said the same thing. Ach tehei sham mitzvah chaydah. This only works if there's a mitzvah seidah. Ketzad Omer loy shnei kelim natal. The loiva claims you took two of my kelim. But who Omer loy natalti ela echad. And the malbus that I only took one. There's a chiv shavuos moed b'miktzas, and then that shvuah gets transferred to the loiva to be able to make the shvuah. In the Gemara is going to explain the reasoning for this. Nechbal. What is the case of nechbal? Ketzad. We saw two people get together, and everyone was in fine condition. And the meeting ended, and one of them had a big black eye. The Omar loy, and the victim tells the perpetrator, "Chavaltami, you damaged me, and you owe me X dollars for it." The mechavel denies everything. He says, "Lo chavalti." Again, I raise a nishba v'noitel. Just to point out, in all of these cases, there was some relying ladon. It's not like I go to somebody out of the blue and I accuse him of hitting me or accuse him of taking a mashkin. There were Edim that saw him coming to my house. There were Edim that saw us get together. So there's a reglaim ladon. But there had to be a mitzvah saydah. Ketzad you gave me two black eyes. I gave you only one black eye. So there would be a shavuos b'mitzvahs, which now gets transferred to the nizik. Now let's see what is an example of shekenegdai chosher ala shvuah. Ketzad. So let's go on to the base. So let's go on to the new daf, Memhei Omer Aleph. Achas Shavuos Eidus. Say if it's Shavuos Eidus, meaning someone swore and denied that he knew Eidus, and it turned out he lied. So now he's a choshed to swear falsely. The Achas Shavuos Abikadon, or if he did not have Abikadon, but the Chiddush is V'achas Vafilu Shavuos Shav. Shavuos Shav, he didn't steal from anybody, and he didn't even lie, right? If he swore on the Evan Shahu Eitz or Eitzo Evan, he swore on something that's obvious. That's a Shavuos Shav, so he didn't lie. But you see, he doesn't respect Shavuos. We don't let him swear. What about Hayu Echad Mehen Misachet B'Kuvi? What if one of these people were a Misachet B'Kuvi, a gambler? And I think there's a machlokes in the Gemara why a gambler is pasal eidos, either because esmach lokanyo so he's a kanev, or because the trade that he engages in or in a living does not benefit the world in any way. Or a malva baribis, so he's over taking ribis, he flies pigeons, and the gambling, and people who do business with the pairs of Shemitah. All these people are not trusted to swear, and therefore shekenegdai nishpa v'noitel. Never they have a chiv shvuah for whatever reason, their baldin will swear and take. Well, what if both the loiv and the malva are both chashud on a shvuah? So neither one could swear. The halach is chazur hashvuah l'mkayma. The shvuah goes back to its original place, divrei mer, which would be the loiv would have to swear to defend himself. Rabbi Yosy, and we learned a couple of days ago in the last parak, and he can't swear, so you tell me, you say mitach and yachli shavim mishal. That's the Rabbi Yosy, but Rabbi Meir Amar Yachloiku. In the case where neither party can swear, they split it. Zok to Gemara weiter. What is the case of Chenveni Alpenkosei? Okay, so what was the case? Loi sheyomer loi ksoiv Alpenkosei shata chayiv li Mosayim. You should write or you should write on. I'm sorry. You not that he said that you wrote on my ledger that you're chayiv me 200 zuz. That's not what it is. And the case was, if I had signed, if the purchaser had signed on the fellow's ledger that he owes, that's not what we're talking about. Which rather the case is al oimerloi tain levni sasayim chitin. Someone told Echemini, you give my son 2 sof chitin, and I will pay you for it. Or tain lepoyali salamois. Or this company actually did some banking, so he said, "Give my employee or my employees the value of a seller in money, whatever there was." He used them as a payroll service. And who oimer nesabi, the company claims that I gave the chidin to your son, or that I dispensed a seller of money towards your employees, and you need to pay me. But the heinoimim, they say, Loi Natalnu, we never received it. The loch is, who nishba v'noitel, the hein nishba v'noitel. The Chemini swears that he gave it, and the Balabais has to pay him. And then the hein nishba v'noitel, they also swear. They also swear that they didn't get and they take. So kum techois, he ends up having to pay twice. Amber Bananas says, how could you allow both of them to swear when you know one of these people are lying? You can't allow them to both swear when you're 100% sure that one of these pairs are going to swear a Shavuos Shav. Ella, this is what you do. The Chedvini gets to demand payment from the Balabais even without swearing. The Hey Noitlin Shaloi B'Shvuah. And they also get to take without a Shvuah. They also take without a Shvuah. There's no Shvuah in this particular case. Okay, Gavalti. Zog to Gemar Viter. Omar Lechenvini. What if someone told the Chedvini, Tain li b'diner payers. I'd like you to give me payers for a dinner. And he's still there in the shop. And Omar Loi V'nosam, and then the Chemini gave the payers to the Balabais. V'nosamai. Amaloi. Then the Chemini said, "Tainli oisei dinner. Would you be so kind? Now that I gave you the payers, would you be so kind and pay me?" Omar Loi, the client says, the purchaser says, "Nasativ lach. Of course, I paid you already. V'nasatai." Unpali, and you put it in your unpali, which is, I guess, your cash register. Rashi says it's his sack that he puts the money that came in for the purchases. Rashi says on unpali, tik ha'asi l'mois. It's the bag where the chenveni puts the money. The halach is yishava balabais shenosal nois dinner. There, the balabais swears that he paid, and he doesn't have to pay again. So this isn't the case of Nishba V'Noitlan, but here we're talking about he's still in the store. He's still in the store, and he's holding on to his goods. The Chayim tell us if he had left the store when he was home, this deal is over. This scenario is over. This question is only if he's in the store and he claims he paid, and the Chemini says he didn't pay, he could swear and be punished.
Yosy, I think you're being hacked. There's like a cartoon coming up right next
really?
to yeah.
Oh, I
right
don't see
next
that.
to your head. Okay.
Oh, no, that's not a cartoon. That's my grandson. That's my grandson.
What? How did he get into the picture? In and out, in and out.
Because he's wandering around behind me.
Oh, okay.
And the picture automatically blanks out the background, but it's not sure if he's background or not, so it keeps on flashing him in and out.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first case was where this fellow has a product in his hand. He's right by the cash register, and he claims he paid already. And the owner says you didn't pay, so the buyer can swear that he already paid, and he leaves. But two, Omer Lloyd. But what if he said Tainli is a payers? So now it's the opposite scenario. The buyer claims that he paid already, and but he didn't get the payers yet. Omer Lloyd Tainli is a payers, and the Omer Lloyd Nesatim lof by Lachtem Lotech Beisecha, and the owner of the store says, "What do you mean? I gave it to you, and you took them home. What do you mean I should give them to you?" There, Yishava Cheveni, the Cheveni will swear that he already gave it to him. Rabbi Yehuda says, in this case, Kol Shaperes Biyadoi Yadoi Al Hel Yoina. Whoever has the parish in his hands, he's Yadoi Al Yoina. So therefore, in the case where the Balabais had a parish, and the Cheneveni is claiming that you didn't pay yet, the Balabais does not have to swear at all, because a parish Biyadoi Yadoi Al Yoina. But in the case where the purchaser, where the customer is saying, I didn't get my parish yet, and the Chavani is still holding on to the pairs, according to, in that case, it's the Chavani who's Yodeh al Yoina, because he has the pairs. And we're soon going to see that Rabbi Yehuda Shita is a store does not release the product until he's paid. So therefore, from the fact that the Balabais had the payers, that's proof that he must have paid already, because normally the Cheneveni would never have released the goods, and therefore the Balabais is Neman, because if he has the payers, that in and of itself is proof that he paid already, and therefore he does not have to make a shvua to say that he paid. On the other hand, when the Cheneveni has the payers in his hands, that's still a suffix as to whether or not the purchaser is paid yet, and there the shulchani, I believe, if Yehuda would be moida, the shulchani would have to swear, because there's no underlying proof. Because the fact that the Cheveni still has the payers, that means the suffix did the bala pay or not. Okay, so let's see the Gemara weiter. What about Amar l'shulchani ten li b'dinar mois? The shulchani is a banker, so I want to swish money in. I need kleingeld. I have a bigger amount. So I'm going to give you a dinner, and you'll give me smaller denominations of nechoshes, of prutais. And they did the transaction. Amaloi, then the shulchani said, I gave you your smaller amount, tainli as a dinner. Give me the dinner. Amarloi, the Balabais claims, I already paid you the dinner, and you put it in your money bag. So again, Yishava Balabais. The Balabais has to swear, and he doesn't have to pay again. But Nosaloi is a dinner. Well, what if the Shulchani what if the customer already paid the dinner into the Shulchani, and then Amalei Tenli is a mois, give me my smaller change. Amalei Nesatim Loch, and the banker claims that I already gave it to you. And you put it into your wallet already. So the loch is there, Yishava Shulchani, that he already gave him the money, and then I'll be potter. But Rabbi Yehuda Omer, ein derech shulchani litein iser achi yitel dinner. A shulchani wouldn't dispense even 1 penny before he's fully paid, and therefore the shulchani does not have to swear that I'm sorry, and therefore if the balabais has the money already, the shulchani does not have to swear that the shulchani, I'm sorry, the purchaser does not have to swear that he paid already, because there's a chazaka that he would never have received his change if it wasn't for the fact that he had paid already. But on the other side, where the customer claims that he paid and he just didn't receive his change yet, there's a welcome for a shvuah, because the question is, did the second payment happen? Did the shulchani give out the change yet? Okay, Gavalti. There's a halacha. A woman gets divorced, and now she's claiming that her husband owes her the moed ksuba. So she has a star that says he owes her, let's say, $50,000. But she says, I will agree that you paid me already 5,000 of the 50. So she's already admitting that her ksuba isn't fully intact. At this point, if she wants to collect the rest of the 45,000, she would have to make a shvua that she only received the 5,000 and no more, and that her husband still owes her the 45,000. So just like we have such a rule that once there's a kink in the armor, once the shvua isn't rock solid, therefore, and the Eid Echad Meida Shiprua Loi Sifra Ela B'Shvua, an Eid Echad that says in Eidos that a shtar is paid up. Again, she could only collect with a shvua. Therefore, so the Eid Echad Meida Shipura never. So who adin the same halach is Loi Sifra Ela B'Shvua Minachasim Mishibadim. Sorry, I'm not reading right. The same way we say Apegemes Ksubas Ela Sifra Ela B'Shvua, and the Echad Meida Shipura Ela Sifra Ela B'Shvua, we also apply this rule to all Nechasim Mishibadim. Minachasim Mishibadim, meaning if her husband does not have the cash to pay up her ksuba, and she's going to people who had purchased property from her husband, that's Meshubah to the ksuba, and she wants to seize them, she has to swear before she can take those properties that she had not yet been paid. And anytime anybody is collecting from Nichse Yisayim, Leisifra Ela B'Shvua, you always have to swear, as the Malva, you have to swear that you were not paid yet before you can take anything from Nichse Mishabadim or from Nichse Yisayim. What if a woman is claiming that she's owed money for her ksuba and her husband is not around? He has the cash, but they have to take the cash because he's not there to give it, nor is he there to defend himself. If Yisayim are collecting a debt that their father left for them to collect, they have to swear, and we're going to have to see exactly what type of shvua they make. And what would the shvua be? Shavua shaloi piktenu abba. We are making a shavua that our father didn't tell us about this chayv. Rashi tells us exactly what it is. B'shas misa. When our father died, he didn't tell us that the shtar that I have is fully paid. Rather, he didn't address that. Omar lanu abba, or our father didn't tell us that this is paid, or shaloimatzinu bein shtaraisav shal abba sheshtar zapura. We didn't find any type of receipt or any type of indication or any type of information amongst our father's possessions that would indicate that this shtar that we want to collect from is parua. So they can't swear 100% that it's not parua because they don't know, but they can swear at least that to the best of their knowledge, this shtar is not paid up. Even if this son, this Yosef that's collecting the old choiv, was never even alive in the lifetime of his father, he still has to swear that he doesn't have any information, and only then can he collect with the shtar that his father had left him. If there are Edim that could testify, they were there by the death of the father, and the father declared at that time, shtar zeh peruahu, this shtar is not parua, or in a parua kama, then there the Yosem does not have to swear, because they have testimony witnessed by Adam that the father said that this was not paid. Then there are some people who you could be mechayev him to make a shvua, even though there's no specific claim against them, just a general claim. Swear that you didn't take any of my money. Not that I have a specific accusation, like you were in my house, you took my mashkin, or we were together and ate them sauce together and I was beaten up. This is out of the blue. I can demand the shvu without any specific type of accusation. And this is a shutfim. When two shutfim are splitting up, the one shutf can demand of the other shutf that he swears that he didn't take anything that he wasn't allowed to. The harisin, or an oris, a sharecropper. So these are all people who work closely together, and it would be so easy for one to take what doesn't belong to them. So there, a shvu can be demanded of them without even a specific accusation. The apotropin, a power of attorney, someone who's taking care of nechosim for somebody else. Yoisha hanoisis from the sentence or a woman who runs the business. If she runs the business, the family can demand of her a shvua that she didn't take anything that doesn't belong to her. Uven abayis, or someone who lives in the house, knows everything. If he says, Amar lemai atat te'aneni, what do you want from me? What is your accusation against me? Why are you asking me to swear? And the person demanding Shavua says, Ritzoni shetishbeli, I don't have any specific demand. I just want you to swear that you didn't take anything that you weren't allowed to. Chayiv will be mechayiv the party of Shavua, whether it's a shutev, an oris, or an apotropos. Cholku shutfim v'arisen. What happens once they split up and they went home? You can't come back a week later and say, now I want you to swear. This demand has to be at the time where they're doing their settlement, not afterwards. So cholku shutfim v'arisen ein yochal hashviyah. But what if I separated with my shutev and a year later I had some other reason why my shutev was mechuyev shvu to me? I can have to swear about that prior separation as well. What if someone is moide b'mitzas? So now he owes his friend a shvua, and Shemitah passes by. The same way Shemitah knocks off a chiv mammon, it also knocks off a chiv shvua that is about mammon as well. Beautiful. Let's just see if there's a Rashi all the way at the end of the Mishnah about Shemitah. No, there is no Rashi on Shemitah. Kol nishboin shebetayra. Anybody who swears in the Torah, nishboin v'lo mishalom. We know how do we know this? The Yom Kra, it says in the pasuk, v'lokach ba'olav v'lo yishalim. At the end of the pasuk that discusses the Chiyuv Shavuos and Moed B'Miktas, it says v'lokach ba'olav v'lo yishalim. So we learn from there that mi shalav l'shalem lo yishvua. Who is responsible to make the shvua? The person that if it wasn't for the shvua, he would have otherwise had to pay. So the shvua is made. The shvua is made to avoid payment. Okay. Ve'elu nishbay b'loy. Frankly, or my shno schir the takinu lei rabbanon the mishtabah b'shal. I don't understand why should a schir get to swear and then collect if the Bailam said I don't owe you, so that's a koil for a koil. There is no chiyuv shua. So why would the rabbanon make a takana that the schir can swear to collect? Amar bidam Shmuel. Halachais gedolos shanuka. These are great halachais, which is mashma that these are halachas l'moshe Messina. Frank Gemara, halachais hani halchaninu. Are you saying that these are halachas l'moshe Messina? Of course they're not. They're takanas to Rabbanon. Elohim takanas gedolos shanuka. These are great takanas. Frank Gemara gedolos machlal dika katanos. Are there big takanas and little takanas? At takanas at takana. So what did Shmuel mean to mention when he said Allahkas Gedolos Shanukan? He's stressing something interesting. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Shmuel, Takanish Kavua Shanukan. These are very solidly backed, grounded, well-reasoned takanos that everybody would agree are necessary. Akru Rabbanan l'shvua mi balabais. The Rabbanan took away the shvua from the balabais. They showed yua aschir and put it on the schir. Why? Mishum kedei chayah. Because the schir, if he doesn't get paid, he doesn't have with what to support his family. He doesn't have with what to survive. So to protect the interests of the employee, we rule on the side of the employee, which is how our liberal governments work in all criminal law. One is innocent until proven guilty. And when it comes to employee relations, the law considers you guilty until proven innocent. So for instance, if an employee makes an accusation against you, you have to prove that you're innocent. He doesn't have to prove that you're guilty. And this comes into play in several different ways. One of the obvious ways is if an employee makes an accusation against an employer for doing something that would be inappropriate, like harassment, the employer would actually have to prove that he didn't do it, which is our crazy labor law. But I'll call upon him in the Havamina of the Gemara. There was such a Havamina of the Gemara that because of K'tei Chayev, you need to side with the employee. But Dr. the Gemara shoots that swear down right away. Mishum kedei chayiv the schir kansinan lei labalabayis. I don't understand. Just because the schir has to make a living, we unfairly and unjustly consider balabayis that the employee can just swear and take. That's not fair. So it is fair because balabayis gufe nichalei the mishtaba schir v'som. The balabayis is happy, erring on the side of the employee. You know why? He wants people to work for him. If he gets this reputation that he claims that he paid when he didn't, and employees go home without getting paid, no one's going to want to work for him. So he also is happy with this mechanism for an employee to demand payment with a shua. He's happy to pay. This way, he'll be able to hire people. He won't have a reputation as a bad employer. Frank the Gemara, I don't understand. Adarabba, schir nichala d'lishtaba balabais v'nafka ki hecha deligre balabais. It's the opposite. This employee, now that he swears to get paid, if he ever is going to be looking for another job, in his reference, the new employer might call the old employer, and the old employer might tell him that he swore and he made me pay even though I didn't owe him the money, and no one's going to want to hire him. So to the contrary, maybe the employee would be willing to forego his justified payment because he wants to maintain a reputation that he's not a difficult employee. Zok to Gemara, no, because balabais al korche agir. A balabais cannot run a business without employees, so he's more desperate. So he's happier that the employee should get paid. Frank, what are you talking about? Schir nami al korche miskar. Why do you think the schir is getting a job in the first place? He needs to support his family. So they're both in the same boat. So why make a takana to the advantage of the employee? Ella, the answer is because balabais tarid bepailov. A balabais might have to pay 50 employees. So it's very hard for him to keep track of everything. The employee himself has a much clearer recollection of whether or not he was paid or not. And therefore, we trust the employee. And Tosfos tells us this is a loy plug. Even if he only has one employee, it would be the same. By balabais, we always say we're going to give the employee the advantage because the balabais sometimes can get overwhelmed with other things and therefore he won't remember. Frankly, okay, so if that's the case, why would we make the employee swear since we know the balabais is tarred with payalov? Let's just say that we trust the employee that he didn't get paid yet. That's kedei lahafis daita shel balabais because the balabais is pretty sure that he paid. That's why he said I paid. So if you just force him to pay based on a claim of an employee, he'll be very upset. If the employee swears, it'll calm him down a little. Frankly, I have a much simpler way to avoid this whole problem. Why don't we make a rule that whenever you pay employees, you pay with Adam? So there's proof. That would be too cumbersome to always need Adam whenever you're going to pay your employee. Frankly, so why don't you make every employee be paid at the beginning of the day, before the confusion of the day occurs? The beginning of the day, I'm paying you X dollars for the day. Here's the money. Now get to work. They both would rather pay later, and Rashi explains why. The balabais sometimes first thing in the morning he doesn't have money. He has to do some sales. He needs to get some income. The poil would rather get paid at the end of the day so that he goes home with the money. If they give it to him in the morning, during his break, he might gamble it away. He might waste it away. He'd rather get it after he's finished work. And therefore, the poil is the one that swears and he gets paid at the end of the day. So Tosfos has some interesting horrors. So let's have a look. Zog Tosfos. It says in the Gemara, Akrur Rabban Shvuma Balabais. They took the Shvu away from the Balabais, who's saying that he paid already, and they give it to the Soicher. But we haven't yet explained why there's a Shvu at all. So Tosfos, Afagav, I'm on the second Tosfos. Afagav, the Koifer, Akoil Potter. Even though a Koifer goes Potter, so there shouldn't be a Shvu here at all. The Nisat Shvu says, Ad B'Meir Rav Nachman. Until the days of Rav Nachman in the Gemara, there was no such thing as a Shvu says for a Koifer, Akoil. So where is this whole Chi of Shvu coming from? It still is more mistaber to say that the Balabai should swear. Even even by a moed of mitras, the schir gets it. So there is a svara that there should be a shvua, and that the shvua should be made by the Taiveya. Okay, Balabai is Torah Pay. I love so Toifus loy plug bein Pay Lechad Leishley Pay Marbe. Once we made this takana that an employee could swear and take, that's how it works. Uviyushalmi Kamar Asaka Merubah, even if he only has one employee, but a business owner, is busy. He has a lot of things on his mind in addition to payroll, and therefore we say he won't remember specifically. The Nasav lay below Shavua. The Gemara asks, since the Balabais is target Polo, let the claimant, let the employee get paid by just claiming he wasn't paid. Why should he have to make a shvua? Which means the kasha is the bori of the Balabais shouldn't be taken as a bori, it should be taken as an yodea. We should discount how sure he is when he claims he paid already because he's target Polo. So the Gemara if you hold Bari Yadav, I understand the Gemara's kasha why you say v'neisav le'belo shvua, because we consider the teveya a Bari and we consider the nitva a shema. Elamanda b'lavo Yadav amai. But if you hold Bari v'shema Bari lav Yadav, so even in the case where the employee, his Bari is not strong and the Bari of the employee is strong, still you shouldn't give it to him without a shvua. So what is the reasoning of the Gemara's kasha at this point? It's like when a Malva claims you owe me $100. And the Shema says, I know I borrowed the money, I just don't know if I paid you back. There it's chayiv l'chula alma, because there's a reglaim l'dover that there was a chiyuv here, and the whole shaila is if the chiyuv was paid off. What's the Gemara's kasha? You should pay without a shvua. Akati amayim neisav loy below shvua. Are you can tell me it's never possible that the bari of the balabayis will be a good bari? It's possible sometimes that the balabayis did actually pay. So maybe the balabayis is right. The Rabbi Yehuda you see, Rabbi Yehuda felt that there shouldn't be a shavua here unless it was a moed b'miktas. So you see, it's quite possible that the balabayis is right. So why do we always just discount his claim that he paid already? Even though Rabbi Yehuda doesn't consider his bari like any yedea, and therefore he's only mechayev for shuvu if there's a moed b'miktas, Rabbanan miyachash v'lei kevadei shachar. The Rabbanan gives no credibility to the balabais, his tiny that he paid, because we look at it like there's no way he could possibly remember. The Gemara says the reason why the employee swears is because the balabais would otherwise be very upset for a mere claim, and now he has to pay again. Zokt Toisvus Hachavadai Shu Oimid V'Tzaveach Shapara Shaykh Takana Kedei L'Hafas Daita. The only time it makes sense to be Mechai V'Shvu Kedei L'Hafas Daita is because you have a balabais saying, "I don't know what you want. How could you make me pay? I paid already." So he's all upset. So the shul will calm down. But if in a case where he said, I don't know if I paid back the money, the case that we mentioned earlier, there I would have to pay without a shvua, because there he won't be screaming because he is not sure if he returned the money. Okay, we'll stop here, and Be'ez Hashem, we will be mamshech tomorrow. I hope tomorrow I will be there in person to learn daf. Oh, I'm sorry. This is just Amud Aleph. We still have to do on base. So I apologize. I thought we were finished the daf. So let's turn on to Amud Beis. Zok to Gemara. Ihachi afilu kotzatz nami. If you're going to say that the whole svara is that we don't trust the balabais because he's confused, well then even in the case of kotzatz, there's a dispute as to how much money we made up to pay. We should have the same rule that the employee should be able to swear and say, no, you said you'd pay me $100 today, not 50. Allah matanya umin aimer shtayim katzastali v'lo aimer loy katzasti loch ela achas hamoitzim mechaver alavaraya. Why is it that in the case where there's a dispute of how much money was owed to the employee, based on how much money we originally made up to pay. There, we don't say that the employee is believed because the employer might not remember. Zaktamor, because there's a very big difference. An employer remembers what they made up, how much he would pay. He just doesn't remember if he paid or not. If we're saying that the employer does not remember if he paid, so then why does this halacha of our mission only apply at the end of the day when the employee is collecting? What if the employee came back 3 days later and said, by the way, you never paid me for 3 days ago? Allah Matanya, why did we learn there? Over his money, you know why? You know why the balabais is believed over there, and we don't say that he's not sure? Because chazaka ein balabais over b'bal talim. We know a balabais would not be over b'bal talim. So before the deadline to pay, he would have definitely verified and checked to make sure that he paid. Since we're a couple of days later after that deadline, we assume the balabais did pay, and therefore we do not err on the side of the employee. Zok Gemara, the Amr, didn't you just say balabais Torah b'payalov? So maybe he didn't remember before the deadline. Yes, but before he's going to be over Isur, that's where he's not clear. But he will make sure to check his balances and to cross his T's and to dot his I's because he doesn't want to be over. Frank Gemara, so what are you telling me? That the skier received money and he's falsely claiming? On the one hand, you're telling me we trust the balabais because he wouldn't be over Baltolim, but now you're being choshed that the skier is being over Baltigzel, asking for another payment for work that he had already been paid for. So tomorrow, no, Gabi balabais, he could trade chazaki. There's two chazakas but a balabais. Chada, they balabais over Baltolim. The chada, the ain't skier masha schara. There's another chazak that an employee will never wait 3 days to come collect. He'll always collect right away. So those two chazakas are in favor of the balabais versus the one chazaka of loisigzol that the employee would not be over loisigzol. Okay, gewaltig. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Shmuel, loishanu elos esachur bein. This whole discussion where an employer has to pay when we're not sure whether or not he paid, that's only if we have Adam that says that there was an original hiring. There's Adam that can testify that there's a relationship here. What if the original employment contract was without Adam? So now the owner has a migoi, since I have a migoi, and I could have said, I never hired you, I have no idea who you are. I'm believed to say that I paid already, and this halacha of nishba v'noitel, I've stated in our Mishnah, would not apply. I like that. That is true. And Rabbi Yochanan said the same thing, that if there's no edim that there was ever an employment in the first place, there the balabais is never to say that he paid. Frank Gemara, if Rabbi Yitzchak is saying that Rabbi Yochanan agrees, Mechlal da Polig Aler Rish Lakish, does that mean Rish Lakish argues? We had a similar scenario a couple of blot ago. Igud Army, why would Rabbi Yitzchak be unsure if Rish Lakish argues in Rabbi Yochanan? Igud Army Mishtav Shasalei V'Shasaglei, either because Rish Lakish did not interrupt Rabbi Yochanan to argue, but maybe the reason why he didn't interrupt to argue is because he was in the middle of drinking. He couldn't speak at the time. Igud Army Misha Havashoylei V'Shas. Or maybe he was just waiting till Rabbi Yochanan would finish his words, and that's why he didn't. But we don't know if Rish Lakish would agree or not. Itmanam, we learned as well. Amar Rabbi Nasha bar Zvid, Amar Rav, Leishanu el shesachar be'edim, aval sachar shloi be'edim, stay migu mitoch sheyachaloi meloi, loishchatich me'olam, yachaloi meloi, scharticha, I did hire you, v'nasati lach scharech, and I paid you already. So he says the same thing that Shmuel said. So we have from the name of Shmuel, and we have in the name of Rav, the same halacha. This is such a beautiful halacha. You're saying it's a good halacha? I have a big kasha on this halacha. Why is a shomer ever mechuyev to swear that I was not poisheya? Why should he swear? The shomer could have said, I never got any pikad of yours. He could deny the whole thing. So he could say Nansa. Talk to are true, but you know when the Shavuos Shemim applied? The Afkid Lebe Edom. If the pikadon was given with Edom, now I cannot deny that I received the pikadon, and I don't have that migoy, that's where there's a chiyuv Shavuos Hashemer. But for Gemara, how does Adam witnessing me receiving the Bekotten help? I still have a migoy. Even though I have Adam, you have Adam to prove that you gave me the Bekotten, I could claim that I gave it back. Zok true. We'll close that loophole as well. The Avgad Be'edim, the Avgad B'Shtara. The Pekotten was done with a star, meaning I gave the Mafkid a receipt. So he pulls the receipt and he says, you must still have my Pekotten, otherwise you would have taken back the receipt. We see from here that both Rav and Shmuel hold that a Mafkid Eitzel Chaver Be'edim ain't Tzarech L'Hachshaloi Be'edim. From the fact that Rabbi Bechama and Rava had this discussion, you see that they hold that Hamafkid is Chaver Be'edim, ain't Tzarech L'Hachshaloi Be'edim, and that's why they said that with Edim, if there's just Edim that witnesses the Sinus HaPekodon, that wouldn't be enough to be Mechayev Shavua. But Bishtar Tzarech L'Hachshaloi Be'edim. But if there's a star, a receipt given, when the Shemer received the Pekotten, then he would need proof that he gave it back. Gewaltig. Zog to Gemara weiter. Zog to Gemara weiter. Kari Rami Bar Chama alei Rab Sheshes. Rami Bar Chama said in reference to Rab Sheshes, Vayosam David Hadvar Ba'ela Beliboy, he was thinking about these things because Rab Sheshes was thinking about this halacha that we just learned. The Ashbechei Rab Sheshes LeRabbi Bar Shmuel. Rab Sheshes was met Rabbi Bar Shmuel. Amalei told him, Tni Mar Midi Bischir. Tell me a halacha about schir. Amalei in, I could tell you a beautiful halacha. Tanina we learned, schir bizmanai nishba v'noita. When it's his time to get paid, that's when the Mishnah said this chiddush that the schir could be nishba v'noita because the balabais is not really clear. Ketat bizman shamaloi schartani. You hired me, v'loi nasata li schori, but you didn't pay me. V'loimer, the employer said, schaticha, I hired you, true, v'nasati loch schori, but I paid you already. That is the case when there's a shvur that the schir can make to get paid. But if the claimant says, you said you'd pay me $100, and the employer claims I only said I would pay you 50, there we say, if the seifa is with a raya, meaning I can only collect from you if I bring a raya that the pay was 100, have a reisha below raya. It must be that in the reisha, I could demand a shvu from you, even though I don't have a raya that you hired me. So that's shver on Rav and Shmuel, because Rav and Shmuel says if you don't have edim that you were hired, you wouldn't be able to mona shvu. Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak, and for Rav Nachman Yitzchak, turning on to Mem Hey Amid Aleph, or Mem Vav Amid Aleph. Reisha B'Seifa Baraya. They're both speaking with a raya. But raya de Lashalam Katani, the Lashon of Amoicha Mechavel of a raya, which is required in order to be able to demand payment, that the Mishnah Brisa says. But raya de Shvuah Katani, a raya that you have to bring in order to demand the Shvuah. In other words, the raya to prove that there was initially an employment that Adam saw when he hired you, that you need to trigger the Shvuah, that the Brisa is not discussing. Raya de Shvuah Katani. So it's not shver. You made a diak, made a sefer raya, reisha below raya. That's not true. The type of rayas that the Brisa discusses are rayas that would force you to pay. That's the type of rayas the Brisa is referencing. But rayas that would allow you to swear, the Brisa is not referencing. But Avada, Rav and Shmuel are correct that in order for the employee to be able to swear and collect, that's only if he has edim that shows that he was hired. Okay, Baruch Hashem, we were zeicha to finish Daf Mem Hey, and Be'ez Hashem tomorrow I will be there in person to learn Daf Mem Vav. Everybody should have an awesome, awesome day.